For further insight now, we are joined on the set by Chen Herzog of BDO. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hello.
Well, look, Israel is now set to export gas to Jordan as soon as 2017. So would you say the Israeli government got its way?
Well, I think exporting gas to Jordan is a national interest of the Israeli economy, of the Israeli government. And I think the completion of the pipeline and the intended sale is definitely a success for the Israeli policy. And I think it's of strategic importance to strengthen our ties with our neighbors.
Well, part of the reason that this was such a fierce debate here within Israel is the government's interest in selling this gas as quickly as possible, but also at the same time, the Israeli public, the general public, being very concerned that not enough steps would be taken to curb gas prices here at home, their national resource. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think there's any conflict in terms of export of gas to Jordan between the national interest and the interest of the consumer. Vice versa. Sale of gas to Jordan will help increase demand, and we need more demand in the market in order to develop more gas fields and to create competition. Today we have a single source of gas, Tamar, and unless we have more demand sources, there's not a justification to develop more gas fields.
All right. Well, still on the topic of energy, moving on to something somewhat similar, is this legislation on the books in Israel regarding a new carbon tax. Could you please address this for us?
Yeah, the idea is very simple. Most European countries have carbon taxes, have energy taxes, and the idea is to promote environmental friendly use of energy. We did that in Israel in 2009 when we introduced green tax on cars. More polluting cars were taxed higher than green cars, and indeed, the market behavior changed. We shifted from polluting cars to smaller, greener cars, and that's the principal idea here as well.
Right. They are, in fact, looking to transition more to green-friendly initiatives as part of this legislation?
That's the idea, but if you look at the numbers, if you look at the outcome, I'm afraid the result is quite different. If we check the numbers, I would call this green tax as an anti-green tax, because what they did, they increased the tax on diesel fuel by 100% eventually. But they increased the tax on natural gas, which is much more energy friendly, by a factor of 12. So if even today we don't use enough green energy and we increase the tax on the most green energy source we have today locally, natural gas, by a factor of 12, I'm afraid we're not going to reach any environmentally friendly effects.
But why is the government proceeding in this way? What other incentives, aside from protecting the environment, is there for the government?
Well, firstly, they want more tax, and it's a very convenient way to get more taxes. It's very politically correct. But I think the idea, you have to remember that this process is already 3 years in process. And when the negotiation took place, when the committee did its calculation, all prices were so high, above $100 per barrel, that it really didn't matter if you tax natural gas a little more, because all was prohibitively expensive. So you would anyhow move to the greener energy sources. But now, when all prices collapse, we need a rethinking of the whole price, and that didn't happen.
Right, and you bring a really important point for our viewers, many of our international viewers, is that this legislation is from the year 2013. A lot of the context that went into providing that legislation then does not exist today.
That's exactly one of the effects that people don't think about of the collapse of oil prices globally. It's that the economic viability of alternative fuels, of green energy, becomes lower, and governments must need to rethink their policy in order to meet targets like the COP21 emission reduction target. It's a different world now with cheaper energy, and we have to adjust our policy if we want to reach the environmental targets.
Very fascinating, and in fact, we're seeing this all over the world, so many different shifts, geopolitical shifts, in light of lower oil commodity prices, and certainly having even an impact on geopolitical context that we see here in the Middle East. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Very much appreciate